Hello, everyone. This is Michael Lehrfeld, and I'm one of the faculty members that teach the CSCI 1100 class. Welcome to Cybersecurity and Privacy. This lecture is of particular interest because it really focuses not only on how you can apply these tools and techniques in a business environment, but you can also use them in your personal life to help secure your information, your social media accounts, your phones, and your bank account. So let's dive in to cybersecurity and privacy. The first thing we want to talk about is understanding it. Why do we really care about this? Some definitions that are interesting is the art of protecting networks, devices, and data from unauthorized access. This is really important to us because as we start to look at this topic, cybersecurity and privacy, the idea of who has access to your information and when can they have access to it is really important, and on what types of systems. So there are 5 areas of concern for us: availability, integrity, authentication, confidentiality, and non-repudiation. Availability means, is Facebook there when you want to access it? Is your data there? Integrity simply refers to the way that the data is displayed. So when you look at your bank statement, is it accurate? Do you have $500 in your bank account, or do you have a negative $500 balance? Authentication is, are you allowed to see that information? So when you log into your bank, you are authenticating to the bank. And so they're identifying you, and as such, getting access to the system. Number 4 is confidentiality. And in confidentiality, that is the data encrypted or not? So when we email information, is that data encrypted? And then non-repudiation is a fancy way of saying that you actually sent the email. So when you walk up to an ATM and swipe your ATM card and put your PIN in, and you pull out $50, then we don't want you to be able to go back to the bank and say, no, that wasn't me, I didn't do that, and thereby defrauding the bank. So non-repudiation is the ability to log and track who did what. So why do we worry about this? Data breaches are a problem. We read about them all the time in the news. Data breaches cost, on average, $4.5 million per breach. That's real money. That's very expensive. So preventing these, there's a financial gain to that. Consumer fraud is also an area of problem where people get taken advantage of online. Hey, send your money to this particular recovery effort, or send money over here, or why don't you need to apply for this job and we need your bank account information to be able to allow you to apply for it. And then there's also identity theft, which focuses around me stealing your identity and then opening up a credit card in your name, or medical debt. So improving cybersecurity starts with some of the basics. These basics really are around human error and reused passwords. If you use the same password over and over for Facebook and Twitter and all these other platforms and your bank, you're much more likely to have an issue when it comes to having the money stolen out of your account. So ideally, what you want to do is use a different user ID and password for your bank than you would actually use for Facebook. Password complexity is another area that is very challenging for us. Our human brain has a tough time remembering random and creating random numbers. So as you can see in this chart right here, on the far left-hand side is the length of your password. So as the length of the password increases, the stronger that password is. So I always encourage people to create passwords out of common phrases that you would use in your life, like row, row, row your boat. That's a really good password. Maybe row, row, row your boat with a pound sign at the end. There we go. That's much better than a 6 or an 8-digit random password, and it's a lot easier for you to remember. So how are bad guys actually getting access to our systems? Well, probably the most common one that we've all seen is phishing. So the first thing we have is spam. Spam is just unsolicited email. So when you go to the grocery store or you go to the mall and you buy a new pair of jeans from the Gap, they get your email address and now they start sending you marketing information in spam. That is generally be considered as junk email that we can just delete, but it's not necessarily harmful to our system. Phishing, on the other hand, tends to be more targeted and tries to get the user to do something using social engineering techniques. For example, at the university, at the end of every semester, we tend to see a large volume of phishing emails coming in targeting students about jobs over Christmas break or summer break. And these jobs pay $1,000 a day. You don't have to leave your house. All you need to do is click on this link and provide some basic information. Well, that basic information may include your credit card number or a bank account or potentially trying to get you to give them your password. So phishing tends to be much more harmful and getting the user to do something to compromise themselves. So the biggest thing we can do is check before you click. Be careful about what you click on. If you get an email that says it's from your bank, you can go open up a web browser and go directly to the bank's website. You don't have to click a link. So ideally, we want to not click on links in emails and just go directly to the source. Another thing you want to be careful of are shortened URLs like bit.lys. These things, we really don't have any visibility into where you're going. Bit.ly is a really handy way of sending long URLs in a short, compressed fashion, but it's also a way to obfuscate or hide the true intention of a website. So just be aware that when your bank says, hey, you need to log in to validate this charge against your account, and they send you a bit.ly link, that's not how banks communicate. So go directly to the sites that you're working with. So social engineering is a common way that bad actors try to get innocent victims to do things. So an attack against the user and typically involves some form of social interaction. So this could be like the previous example about clicking on a link and applying for a job, or it could actually be a phone call that the bad actor is portraying someone that the person doesn't know, or it may be I've gotten phone calls from the fake IRS saying that I'm going to be audited unless I go out and buy them Walmart gift cards. The government, the IRS, or any official agency will not take gift cards in lieu of payment. You usually, almost always, have to use a draft from your bank account, or sometimes they'll take a credit card, but they'll never take gift cards. So there's a life cycle that occurs when attackers go after victims. And so really there's 4 phases here, and this would make sense if you were trying to do something like this. The first phase is recon. Who are we going after? What are their names? What are their IP addresses? What are their email addresses? All of that information. So I'm trying to figure out who I'm going after. Well, if I'm going to launch an attack on college students, I'm going to probably look at ETSU and see if I can't figure out what a college student would be most likely to do. And then the second step is delivery. And delivery, that's the actual email, that's the phone call, that's the text message that gets delivered to you. The third thing is the exploitation phase. This is when the user, the victim, clicks on a link in that email or answers a phone call and provides information. So that's the exploitation phase. And then the malicious action is, well, what do they do with that information? Do they try to steal your identity? Do they try to get you to send them money? One of the common schemes that I've seen at ETSU is where someone is from a compromised country and they email the students saying that I have $10,000 and I'm trying to get out of my country, but I can't get my money out. What I'm going to do is send you a check for $10,000. You go to your bank, cash the check, you keep $5,000 for yourself, and then just mail me a check for $5,000 for your trouble. So this is not a real thing that you should be participating in. It is a fraudulent activity, but that's just an example of a malicious action and how the bad actors try to get data or information or money from their victims. And on the far right side of that slide, you see some ways that we can defend against each one of these. Don't overshare your information. If someone calls you on the phone, go to, like, let's say you get a phone call from your credit card company. You can actually look on the back of your credit card and look at the phone number on there. Call the phone number on the back of your credit card and verify whatever it is the person was calling you about. Don't give information away to someone that is calling you because you cannot be guaranteed who they are. Be careful when clicking on websites. Make sure you have antivirus and malware installed on your computers, and make sure that we're backing up our data. So how do we prevent malware from our systems? So malware is simply malicious software. It's just bad stuff running on our computers. There are a bunch of different types of malware. The most common one tends to be a computer virus, where you'll get a pop-up ad, or the virus might try to ransomware your system by encrypting it and making it unusable, and then making you pay Bitcoins to get that back. You see a lot of ransomware activity in the news. That's a very common theme. And really all that is the bad actors get access to the computer system, usually through some type of a phishing email, and then they load software on the victim computer, and then they encrypt the entire hard drive so it's not accessible to the end user. So this is a real problem, and it usually starts with some type of a phishing campaign. So basic malware protection comes with Windows and Macs and Androids and iPhones. So it's a matter of making sure that your systems are up to date. Making sure you're running your Windows updates. Make sure that you're updating in the App Store all your applications. Whenever the operating system prompts you to either update and reboot, that you actually do that. That's probably the easiest and most fundamental way to protect yourself against software viruses. And then on the privacy side, one of the most important things that I try to tell students is that their data has value. When we look at a large company like Google, a top 5 company in the world, Google really doesn't make anything. They trade in data. That data comes from you. Your data has value. So things that we might consider valuable, obviously your bank account information, your phone number, but what about your mother's maiden name? That's used in a lot of different places to reset user accounts. So that has value. Your places that you've lived, your address, your insurance information, whether it be medical insurance, car insurance, or other types of insurance that you might have. Your academic record has value. So all that information is a potential target to bad actors. So protecting that is going to be important for us to make sure that we can minimize the risk when something bad does happen. So how do we do that? Securing your email, strong passwords. We already talked about the longer the password, the better, but also setting up two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication occurs when you log in with your user ID and password, and then you get a text message or a prompt on a Microsoft Authenticator or Google Authenticator app. This is something that you absolutely should set up on any account that has value to you. That would include email accounts and banking accounts and your work or ETSU accounts. So any account where there's value around there, you want to have that extra layer of protection. What that does is, if someone was able to get your password and then try to log into your bank, The bank would then send a message to your cell phone saying, is this really you? And then you can say yes or no. You do not ever want to just click yes on those without knowing what it is. On your phone number, you can create a virtual phone service like Google Voice. And so keeping track of phone numbers is important, but it can be challenging. There's a do not call list within each one of the 50 states that you can register to have your phone number removed from marketing emails or marketing campaigns. And your name. You can also use an alias. So when you're on Reddit or other Discord or other types of social media services, you can anonymize yourself a little bit by not necessarily putting your name out there. So privacy at home and on the go. Redundancy. So backups. One of the number one things that people can do to help protect themselves in the event of a catastrophic attack or failure is to back up your data. So you can go out and buy a little tiny external hard drive for $50, $60 and back up your data to that. Or you can use the cloud. You can use OneDrive or Dropbox or Box or one of the other myriad of different online backup services. That way your data is duplicated and backed up. So there are built-in backups for people that are more technically savvy in Windows and in Macs. Macs call it Time Machine. Microsoft calls it Windows Backup. They're both very effective of backing up your user data on your system. And finally, we're going to talk about protecting your accounts. So login information. You want to make sure that you have a strong password, like we've mentioned before, and unique passwords. One of the things that I encourage people to do is when you sign up with your bank, create a brand new email account for that bank and don't use it for anything else other than your banking. That way, you don't ever have to worry about getting fake bank emails to your normal account because you don't log into your bank with your normal email account. It's only this banking email account, and you don't use that banking email account for anything else. So that way you kind of separate the risk that you might have. So that way, if Facebook gets compromised and the bad guys get your user ID and password, it's going to be different from what you would use to log into your bank. And managing your passwords can be problematic. You can use a password manager. Most of the modern browsers today have password managers built into them. There are third-party password managers that you can use. One of the nice things about doing that is that you can create a vault password. So you create this really long 25-character password that you use to unlock your password manager. And then your password manager can then place passwords into the web browsers or other areas. And they also help you generate strong passwords. So if you go to a website that you know you're not going to go to very often, you can use your password manager to just create a 20-character random password, fill it in there, and it will remember it for you. Some popular managers are Bitwarden, 1Pass, and Keeper. Some of those are open source and free. Some of them have a subscription. The nice thing about that is that they're available across different platforms. So if you have a Windows device, a Mac, iPad, and an Android phone, it will synchronize all those devices and your passwords for you. And multi-factor authentication is something that you absolutely should have configured on any account that you feel has value to you. Like I mentioned before, that would be banking and education and careers and jobs, those things that have value. That way that if your account does get compromised, this is a last layer of defense for that. And on mobile device security, one of the most impactful things that users can do is make sure their devices and their apps are up to date. So as we wind down, we look at CVEs or common vulnerabilities and exposures. The way that people in cybersecurity land keep track of risks is that we rank these. And so This is a top 10 list of the most common risks associated with mobile. And you can see there the number one thing, improper credential usage. What that is a bad actor puts in your user ID and password at your bank, and it sends you an MFA prompt, and the user just hits yes without recognizing what they're doing, and that's improper credential usage. We can also set up remote device and remote locking. So if you happen to lose your phone, you can log into Google, find my device. You can log into Apple, find my device, and you can erase or lock that device so it doesn't become compromised. So finally, take control, right? Take control of everything that you're doing out there in cybersecurity land. This is your data. Your data has value. So make sure that you're not oversharing your information, depending upon the platform that you're on, and make sure that you are just using a bit of being concerned and aware of who's clicking or who's sending you emails and what are they asking you to do. So there are some good websites out there that you can use to check other websites. So if you get a phishing email and you're not really sure about it, there's this website, Site Checker, that you can go to, copy and paste the URL into there, and it will actually give you a rating and tell you why they have that rating. Really handy if you're not sure. So with that being said, that's why cybersecurity is important to you. That it not only impacts your business life, but it impacts your personal life. Your data has value. So thank you very much. My name is Dr. Lehrfeld, and I look forward to seeing you in future classes.